Hello and welcome. My name is Andrea Schombacher, and I'm here with my colleague Jennifer Dale, and we are very excited to be here today to share the new DaSy Virtual Engagement Toolbox with you. So the purpose of this webinar is to provide you with free and easy to use resources that will help you enhance engagement of your participants at meetings when they are virtual, before, during, and after virtual meetings. Dr. Dale, do you want to review the objectives?
Sure, if you would go ahead and Ms. Schombacher, share your screen.
Oh, yes.
That
Very
would be
helpful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you. I was so excited to get started.
I know you wanted to dive right in. You could do this whole thing with your eyes closed with no slides, but it would be helpful probably for the participants to see the slides as we're going through.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome everybody, and we're so excited to be here with you today. And the purpose of our webinar is to help participants apply best practices to engage participants remotely, to collect, analyze, report, and use high quality data during virtual meetings. In this webinar, you'll learn about 2 tools that promote engagement during virtual meetings. And you will also know by the end of the webinar how to access the DaSy Virtual Engagement Toolbox resources that we'll share with you at the end. I did want to mention that I will be monitoring the chat, and we will be scheduling some question and answer time at the end of the session. But know that if you have questions as we're going through the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat, and then we'll save them for the end of the presentation and open it up for some questions and answers. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Andrea, who is going to get us warmed up in thinking about the content of the session today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dale. And rule number 1 is share your screen. So let's start off by warming up and sharing your thoughts about the benefits of meeting virtually. So we're going to practice, and we're going to use the first tool that we will review today. It's called Slido. And I'm going to ask that you take your cell phone and put your camera on. I'm going to do this with you. And aim your cell phone camera at the QR code that you see on the screen. And you should see a website pop up. So you're doing this as if you're taking a picture, but you're not actually taking the picture. And you click on that website. And you should see a prompt that has the question, what are some advantages of meeting virtually? And you should see a space with a prompt that says enter a word. Excellent. So I see that people have been able to access through the QR code and are starting to add to this word cloud. And if you can't access the QR code, you can always go through slido.com and enter the participant number that you see here on the screen. So let's give everybody a moment to type in some advantages of meeting virtually. Oh my goodness, and right away you can see one of the unique features of Slido is as more and more people enter the same content, the actual words get larger. So we can see that no travel time is a huge benefit that many of us attending this webinar find as an advantage of meeting virtually. And if you look at the top, there's a number that is changing as you are entering your thoughts. So as a meeting facilitator, you can see how many responses you have, how many people you have actually engaging in the responses, because this has been set up so that one participant can actually enter more than one word. So it doesn't limit you to one word. So I'm seeing lots of information come in. And let's give everybody about 30 more seconds. If you haven't shared yet, feel free to type in words, and then we'll take a minute to look at the words that people have shared. Okay, great. Thank you all. We tested out Slido in the very beginning here, and I see lots of really, really good feedback around advantages for meeting virtually. And obviously, travel time, but accessibility is huge. So we have all of these benefits that we have accidentally stumbled upon given the nature of the past year. And we have cost effectiveness, convenience, flexibility, accessibility, lots of time saving. I see reduction in costs, the fact that you can meet anybody anywhere, whether you're in one part of the world or another. I see less spreading of illness, scheduling easier, you can meet anywhere, and more people can join. So there are so many advantages of meeting virtually. And I thank you all for sharing. You can feel free to keep adding to this as well. And we can check back in towards the end of the presentation to see how many more responses we've received. So you can see we were able to generate so many positive benefits of meeting virtually. And though we do know there are positive benefits to virtual meetings, there can also be some challenges regarding engagement of the people that are attending your meetings. And so throughout this past year and a half, teams have been working really hard to engage as many participants as possible. Whether you're planning for your SIP meeting, an SPP APR stakeholder meeting, or just a regularly scheduled team meeting, there are strategies that can improve the number of participants that engage, attend, and participate in your meeting. Additionally, OSEP has released new requirements that necessitate teams to document strategies describing how they will include more families and parents, engage diverse participants, and continually gather feedback and report out progress on a more frequent basis. Our DaSy webinar on July 15th will take a really deep dive into how to create a communication infrastructure to promote very strategic engagement in every aspect of your SPP APR process. But for today, our focus will be on how to use 2 free and easy tools to increase engagement no matter what the topic of your meeting. So when we look at all the things we've learned this year, there are 4 best practices that really we have to think about in order to create as much engagement as possible. And the first best practice is to really plan intentionally. So regardless of the meeting that you're setting up, you really want to think about the purpose of the meeting. What type of engagement do you want to create during the meeting? And once you realize the type of engagement, then you can match the tool to the engagement in order to create a very comfortable environment for people to participate and engage virtually. So as you're planning intentionally, some reflection questions include, will these participants be meeting with me once? Is this a one-time meeting, or is this the type of meeting that will occur on a regular basis? How many participants will attend? It's very easy, much easier to engage a smaller number at times than a very large number of people. And how much time do we have? We have learned that Zoom fatigue is absolutely real, and everybody is in meetings. Many of us are in back-to-back meetings, which is exhausting and can absolutely impact engagement. So 2 things to think through are, 1, what time of day is this meeting taking place? And are the people coming to my meeting at 4 p.m., are they ending their day with my meeting? Because if that's the case, I'm not going to want to plan 2 hours. I'm going to want to think strategically and plan something that's a little bit on the shorter side. And be really thoughtful about those things. Because what we also have learned is that Zoom And online virtual meetings require us to think through how we're going to work together. And that means we might have to use some of these tools like Slido and Padlet, two that we'll review today, in between the meeting sessions, so that what used to be a 2-hour face-to-face meeting can be cut down to a 1-hour virtual meeting based on how you can work in between those meeting sessions before and after you come together virtually. So the second best practice is to really consider your technology in advance and clearly communicate this information to all of your participants. So you want to level set with foundational information about the technology that you will use and that participants should have access to, especially if you're going to be meeting regularly. And this requires that you stay on top of tool updates. Companies are responding so quickly to user feedback, which is a great thing. However, if you don't stay on top of those updates, then your meeting could be impacted without you even knowing it until you're in the moment of the meeting if the tool is updated and your participants don't have the most recent version. An example of this recently is the Zoom update that allowed participants to actually select their own breakout rooms. So to make it easier on the facilitators, you wouldn't have to pre-assign rooms. Well, if you're just learning about this update during your meeting, that's going to impact the flow and the smoothness of your ability to facilitate. So always, always, always double check whether or not updates have happened before you have your meeting. You also want to consider accessibility. So some participants may require closed captioning or other features in order to fully participate. Make sure you think about this and understand this in advance. Always check to see if the tools you're using have indications about browser capability. So what I mean by this is when you see your browsers, many of us grew up using Internet Explorer. Well, most of the tools that we use now don't work well on Internet Explorer and often will not work if you're using a browser that's not compatible. So you want to make sure that you have told your participants in advance to use Chrome or Firefox or whatever it is, the browser that will best work with the tool that you're using. That way there's no surprises when your meeting starts. You also want to consider if your system has a paid account for a tool or if you're using the free version. And so understand, even though you can do a lot with the free versions, there are limitations of using the free versions. So you just want to know what those limitations are so you're not setting yourself up to do something that you actually might not be able to do because you're using a free account. Padlet and Slido, the tools that we're going to review today, are both really robust even when you're using the free accounts. But I learned just yesterday that there is a limit to the number of Padlets that you can make. And so I upgraded my account in order to develop some of the models that we're going to go through today. I'm glad I didn't learn that right before this meeting started. So you also want to send out information via email, text message, whatever is the best way to communicate with your participants about the meeting before the meeting actually happens. So they know the meeting platform, they understand the sign and expectations, and also be very clear about your camera expectations. Excuse me. Now, this one is my favorite best practice, as you can tell, because I started off without sharing my screen. And currently I'm drinking my glass of water so I don't cough. But in the virtual world, we are vulnerable and we're on display in a way that we weren't before. So you have to give yourself and you have to give others grace, because this whole idea of meeting virtually, it requires a whole new level of being prepared. And we all come to the table with different levels of comfort around technology. And so we have to be able to accept that it's not going to be perfect all the time. And that's okay. The important thing is that the work you intended to do at your meeting happens. And so accept the fact that you cannot control for every single variable during a virtual presentation, but do your best to control the variables that you can impact and influence. And so part of that requires remaining calm when things happen. Technical glitches will happen, and just move past it and move forward it to the best way possible. Understanding that your goal is to do the work that you intended to accomplish by the end of the meeting.
And we also recommend identifying a team member like myself or Renee to help support the technology during the meeting. So it can be an IT person from your organization or someone who's just tech savvy, a tech savvy teammate who is also attending your meeting. And really meet with this person ahead of time to discuss how you communicate if you need help ahead of time. So you definitely want to plan for those technical glitches, stay calm during those technical glitches if they arise, and have a person on call to help you as needed throughout the presentation. You always want to have a plan B, and remember the goal of your activity, and just keep calm and have a simple backup plan. You will always want to plan for the backup plan.
Thank you, Dr. Dale. And then the fourth best practice to consider is really focus on building relationships. And this best practice is always relevant, even before virtual meetings, but the events of the past year have really led to significant personal and professional challenges for some of us. And you have to always assume the best, because truly you don't know what people are going through in that moment. And remember that our technology tools are a vehicle to keep us connected, since we can't work physically together. And especially if you're meeting with participants over time on a consistent basis, you do want to build in time to get to know one another personally. You can add 5 minutes at the beginning or the end of your meetings to check in personally, and you can have fun while you're doing this. Understand that not everybody is comfortable with sharing at certain levels, and so that's okay as well. It's difficult to pay attention to verbal cues when you are having a virtual meeting, but do your best to do so. And always remember, you can reach out to a participant at any time after the meeting if something just didn't feel right. And lastly, the important piece of building relationships is to celebrate your teams and your participants' small wins so that you can build momentum over time. So these are your 4 best practices to increase engagement. And if you reflect on them and consider these 4 best practices as you're planning your meetings will be successful. So we just reviewed the fact that engagement has to be planned intentionally during virtual meetings. And 3 reflective questions that you can consider before you're planning is, what type of engagement do you want to foster? When do you want your participants to be engaged? So back to that concept of, is there something that we can do before the meeting to make that meeting time shorter? Is there something we can do after the meeting? And then lastly, how will you engage participants? So let's take a minute and look at this question. How do you currently engage participants during meetings? To answer this question, we are going to use the Slido tool again to capture your thoughts, but we're not going to do a word cloud. We are going to use a Slido poll feature. So it will work the same exact way. You can grab your cell phone, or you can join at slido.com and use the participant number. But you can see that we set this poll up with a couple of choices. So please feel free to add how you currently engage participants.
And this is a multiple response option, so you can select more than one response at a time. And so we'll watch how the data comes in. You can see on the screen that as participants respond, you'll see that number in the top right increasing. So far we have 13 responses. And you'll also see the bar graphs changing and growing, and it's highlighting the top responses in the blue color. So we have about 58 participants here, Andrea. So let's give it just another minute because we only have about 20. So we'll give another minute to make sure that you can log in either through the QR code or slido.com, one of those two ways, and enter the ID on the screen.
Thank you, Dr. Dale. So we see lots of people use the chat feature. I do too. I love the chat feature. And then second is talking. So unmuting and responding verbally, which also works. Much easier with a smaller meeting. Shared documents are excellent. We absolutely love shared documents, especially if you're meeting consistently with the same group of people, then you can use those shared sites to do the work in between the meetings, which is awesome. And then we have polls, other, and Padlet. And let's see, poll, we also have poll everywhere. Let me see if anyone has used poll everywhere. Okay, great. A couple of people have used poll everywhere, whiteboards, and then there's Slido. So we're so excited that we got to introduce Slido to you guys today because as you can see, it's really easy to use and it can definitely help with engagement. Great. So there are so many different ways for you to choose how to engage your participants, which is really exciting. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on the ways that you currently engage. And I am very curious, for those of you who shared other, I'd love to hear what those other strategies are. So you can feel free to type those strategies in the chat. And then at the end of the session, when we're engaging in the Q&A, we can take a look at your responses there too. Okay, so we're going to jump right into how to use Slido and Padlet, which are two free and easy to use tools that will increase engagement during any meeting. So first, we're actually going to check in to see how familiar you are with these tools. I noticed in the chat, or not in the chat, in the Slido poll that we had 0 participants engage with Slido. So Renee, I think we can skip that poll. We did have a small number of people who had engaged in Padlet. So let's just launch the Padlet poll just to get a gauge of how familiar you are with Padlet. So this poll is coming to you through Zoom, and this will give Jen and I a better picture with how familiar you are with Padlet. So you want to select if you're very familiar, somewhat familiar, or not familiar at all. And all those answers are perfect.
And then Renee, let us know when we get a good percentage of responses, and we'll go ahead and share the results. While we're having the results come in, I did see a quick question that we can respond to from the chat. Is Slido free? Yes. Yes, it is. And you can also see how we're using the Zoom poll and compare that to using the poll in Slido. So just consider the differences. We know that there are a lot of poll tools, but one of the benefits that you may have seen in the Slido use of the poll feature is that live data, where here, when we're using a poll with Zoom, we're collecting those responses all together and then showing it at one time. So just consider, as you're planning and thinking about which tool you might want to use, consider those differences in the different polling features. But yes.
We're at 74%, so I think we're.
Okay, great. That's great engagement here, everybody. 74% responses. That's great.
Excellent, thank you. And when we look at the poll, I see that 9% of our participants today are very familiar with Padlet. That's awesome. As we are engaging in some of these scenarios that you're going to see in a minute, please feel free to chime in with other ideas, especially if you have used Padlet to engage in data analysis. We have about 48% participants are somewhat familiar, and then 43 participants are not familiar at all. So this is an awesome opportunity for us to show you how you can access Padlet and Slido and set up a free account, which we will do after we go through our scenarios today. So this is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so Slido, as you know, is a Q&A polling app, and Padlet is a real-time collaborative platform. And both of these tools are actually allowing participants to engage in real time, which is why you saw the bar graph moving and why Renee was able to give us those percentages at the end with Zoom, and why with Padlet, you're able to see these sticky notes pop up and appear all at the same time. So if you're going to use these tools, just know that you can use them before your meeting to gather information. You can use them during your meeting, and then you could use them after your meeting. So the participant responses are all collected in real time, and that is definitely a plus to think through, and it's a similarity between the two tools. Some differences include the fact that when you use Slido, your participant data is going to be organized based upon the output that you have selected. So for example, the first exercise we did was a brainstorming word cloud, and you could see that the words were pulled together in that cloud formation, where the second example we used was the poll. And so I had to give you preset answers, but the bar graph moved. So Slido has that capability, whereas Padlet does not. Padlet has the ability to capture participant thinking, but it's organized by the person that's created the Padlet. The data won't be aggregated or displayed in the same way as Slido, and we're going to look at those differences. Another difference is that event data is saved in Slido and can be reviewed for analysis. So that is really exciting. We're going to show you what that looks like after the scenarios. And Padlet, though it cannot save data in the same way that Slido does regarding participant numbers, Padlet will allow your participants to upload files, upload pictures, upload documents, upload manuals. And so you can see that Padlet becomes more of that cloud virtual meeting space, whereas Slido becomes a tool that you can use more for that question and answer engagement. The other really exciting thing about Slido is that you can fully integrate it into Microsoft PowerPoint like you saw today. And actually PowerPoint has this little button that says Slido on it, if depending on the actual level of usership that you have. So it is exciting that you can do that, whereas Padlet, you will always use a link. You will have to link out to the Padlet that you use. So those are some similarities and differences between Padlet and Slido. So today, we're going to take some time to dig into how you could use these tools through the use of hypothetical scenarios that are relevant to our early childhood audience. So we're going to apply the use of Slido and Padlet to demonstrate a 5 whys needs assessment, some brainstorming options around a vision statement, how to rank and prioritize some critical questions when you're thinking about data systems, and then also observing and discussing trends when examining a data visualization. So as we're engaging in these scenarios, we just want you to think, how else could you use these tools to increase engagement in your virtual meetings? So we're going to give you a couple of examples today, but think about it and jot some ideas down, because I'm sure that we could generate 100 different ways to use these tools.
Okay,
Jen.
so I'm going to go ahead and read our first scenario for the participants. So scenario number 1 for you to think about and consider is that a state has convened a diverse stakeholder group consisting of parent representatives, state and local regional administrators, practitioners, higher education representatives, community partners, and other state and local agencies to assist in setting rigorous yet achievable targets for the ESSEP. The state prepared, shared, and described the following data using a variety of data visualizations with the stakeholder group. ESSEP performance data relative to the targets from previous years, the methodology used to set the targets, and projected targets for future years. The facilitator of the meeting will lead the team through an initial brainstorming activity to think about why they did not meet previous targets.
Thank you. So when you think about this scenario, we do not have data to look at currently because this is hypothetical. But say you were looking at this data, we are modeling for you how you could use the Padlet tool to set up a brainstorm. So if you go into Padlet, you can actually create a wall. They're called Padlet walls. And so I went in and created an ESSEP team initial brainstorm. And I documented the question that I wanted the team to think through in this hypothetical scenario. And so you'll see here the question says, share your thoughts about why our team did not meet our previous targets. What factors were in our control and what was out of our control? And prior to sharing the link with the participants of the meeting, I added columns. So you'll see this add column button right here. And you can add as many columns as you'd like. And that helps to organize the Padlet responses. So you'll see in the initial column, we have initial thoughts. And then the second column is notes on what items or what factors were actually within our control. And then the third column is asking what factors were out of our control. And you'll see here these thumbs up, thumbs down buttons. You can vote in various ways or have your participants engage with one another while using this Padlet tool to show they're agreeing with something or disagreeing with something. And there's an ability to add comments underneath the person's statement. So this is one example of how to set up an initial brainstorming around meeting ESSEP targets.
And in order to share this with your participants, you could do that multiple ways. We've done that by simply sharing the link from the Padlet in the chat. But another way you can think about collecting responses in Brainstorm before the meeting is to put a link in an email or a calendar invite and ask them to jot their thoughts down before the meeting to save time. That's an example of one of those ways you can think about how to reduce time in meetings by having them do some of the brainstorming outside the meeting. So you will have a link that would share with participants. So just think about the best way to deliver that. And if you want them to do the brainstorming in the session or before or after the session.
Great point. So this is just one example of a brainstorming with Padlet. Let's move on to our second example.
Okay, so scenario number 2 is about timely transitions. So after reviewing and discussing data, a team identifies that the length of time for transitions from SEED to 619 services are significantly lower for some groups of children. The team needs to develop strategies to improve the rate of timely transition for specific groups of children with those significantly lower rates. So the meeting facilitator wants to gather participant feedback regarding why some groups of children have lower transition times and then develop strategies to improve this outcome. So what might this meeting facilitator do, Andrea?
Thank you. Okay, good question. So this meeting facilitator is going to engage in the 5 whys during their virtual meeting. And many of us have engaged in the 5 whys, and we know that it basically entails asking why regarding a question. And the question here is, why did some groups of children have lower transition times? And so the facilitator could do this multiple ways. The facilitator, depending on the number of meeting participants, could have each participant answer the first why without addressing the other 4 whys, and they could come to consensus on the why before moving to the next why. And so that's totally up to the facilitator, how they'd like to facilitate the 5 whys. But you can see in this example, using Padlet, it allows the team to drill down to a final why, which is, in this case, the team reflected and decided that they had assumed that most of the parents either had a computer or would be able to check their website regularly because that's the way they are used to operating. And so when they came to that conclusion in this hypothetical situation, the next step the facilitator would take would be to have his or her team brainstorm some strategies to improve that communication. And here you can see Padlet being used by the same team that just drilled down into their 5 whys, trying to respond to the question of what do we need to do differently to improve our communication with families that we may not have been able to reach previously. And so every team member has the freedom to put up a Post-it, a Padlet Post-it, and you can see that the participants in this hypothetical scenario added their thoughts. And as participants were adding thoughts, other participants have the ability to go in and set a rating. So you can see here that somebody agreed very much with what this person said about finding out what communication methods work best for our families. Maybe send a survey. There was a person in that meeting that thought this was a great idea because they gave it 5 stars. You can also see in this example, there is somebody that typed a response. So a participant said that maybe we should team up with a local organization, like maybe a local church or a rec center. And somebody thought, that's interesting. Can you explain more about this idea? What would this look like? And so Padlet allows for interaction in multiple levels, which is really great for a facilitator when you are facilitating these types of discussions or engagements virtually.
All right, moving on to scenario 3, considering a scenario related to data system design. So a state Part C program is engaging stakeholders in a high-level process of envisioning a new data system. The meeting facilitator wants to engage participants by asking them to share keywords and thoughts regarding their purpose and vision statement to guide plans and decisions for a new system. So what might this meeting facilitator do to actively engage their participants?
This scenario is an excellent example for the use of Slido word cloud. Just exactly like you experienced at the very beginning of this meeting, the facilitator could generate a live Slido poll and set it up in the word cloud setting to identify the words that the team thinks are important about the vision of the team's work to build that new data system. So here is a screenshot of what you experienced earlier, and it shows that this team felt that data equity was extremely important and that this new data system needs to be informative, link across programs, include a broad range of stakeholders, connects Part B and C, etc. So you can see how this is now saved in time, and the facilitator of the meeting has this. And now the team can move forward and work on building out that vision statement. Whether they do it during the meeting or after the meeting depends on how much time they have and how many team members are there. So after that team hypothetically completes their vision statement, a follow-up step is to help generate buy-in for the new system would be the stakeholders would actually prioritize some critical questions regarding the system. And so these questions would actually help the state and local staff administer the program, meet accountability requirements, etc. And so we know we can't include 100 questions, and we know that the data system has to be built in a way that prioritizes the data. So you could use a Slido tool to prioritize those critical questions. So the meeting facilitator can go into Slido and type, say there's 10 questions, 20 questions, type all of those questions, and through the QR code or slido.com, participants could go in and actually rank them by clicking and dragging them. And I can show you this on the back end to show you what it looks like. It's very, very simple. And so each participant goes in and ranks it according to their preference, and the Slido tool will actually order it for you based on the number of responses and how many have been ranked.
Okay, moving on to scenario 4, our final scenario for the webinar. We're looking at a scenario related to the analysis of survey data. So a team is analyzing the representativeness of their family outcomes survey data, indicator 4, especially along the lines of racial groups, in order to develop strategies to increase response rates from targeted groups that we have not historically had success with reaching in the past. So the meeting facilitator will project the data from the team to review and needs to collect participant observations regarding the trends, the patterns and trends that they're observing within the data. So how might they do this using one of those two tools?
Thank you, Dr. Dale. And this scenario, we're actually ending with this scenario because we do want to remind everybody about the July 15th webinar. That webinar is going to focus very specifically on the development of a really robust communication infrastructure to increase engagement of parents and the public during the SPP APR process. So this scenario is more focused on the SPP APR process, but does not address that depth of infrastructure. Rather, it'll model the use of Padlet to show how you can look at those trends and observations as teams analyze data. So in this example, you can see the differences in this Padlet with the other Padlets that we saw. The facilitator can project the data or give team participants the data ahead of time so they're looking at it either on a second screen or printed out in front of them. And the facilitator can use that column feature to set up some guiding questions to prompt the data observation or analysis. And the first column says, what do you notice? The second column asks, what do you wonder? What surprises you? And then lastly, what are some key takeaways? And you can see here, as participants engaged in this, they were writing down things that they noticed, things that they wondered. And again, that comment feature was used. Somebody asked a question here. Should we assume that if more families submitted the surveys, we'd have lower family outcomes ratings, question mark? Surprises. And then key takeaways. Again, here, instead of thumbs up, thumbs down, or stars, you see that hearts can be used. So you have multiple options for how to give additional feedback. And you can always add comments and keep conversations going related to a specific thought within the brainstorming wall.
So as a facilitator, you'll want to consider when you're reviewing data and you want participants to make observations, if you want to categorize their responses in that way, or if you would like to just have a Padlet that had just an open-ended response, not organized in those categories of what do you notice, what do you wonder. So just think about those questions that you might want to ask or how you want them to reply to those responses.
Thank you. Yep, that freedom is all up to the facilitator, whoever sets that Padlet up. So now we're just going to take a minute to go into each of those tools to show you how to set it up and show you how to create that free account. And so as you're looking at Slido, this is actually a screenshot of the interface that you would see. We just want you to think about what type of information do you need to gather from participants. So every time you go into Slido, every time you go into Padlet, you want to think about that question, because the answer to that question actually will lead you to whether or not you select a multiple choice, whether you select to engage through a word cloud, a quiz, a rating, an open text, or a ranking feature, which you can see is new. So I'm going to actually go into the Slido and show you what it looks like in my account.
And when we show you the Slido interface, we'll also show you where you can find additional supports for getting started and setting up your account. So we're not going to dive deeply into the tool, but we are going to direct you to resources that will help you get started and help you learn more about the technical side of how to use Slido. So we will be making sure to direct you to that resource. So we're just going to do a high level overview of and show you how simple it is to get started.
Can everybody see this Slido screen that says Andrea's organization at the top?
Yes.
Excellent. So this is all a free account. You can see the big upgrade letters here. They want me to click upgrade so that I can get more features. I have not clicked upgrade yet. And you can see here that these are my events. So when I logged into Slido, and it's very easy to log into, I can actually take you back to that slide if you'd like. You log in and you see your events right away. So here are all the events that happened in my past. Here are all my active events, and this is what you engaged in today in the webinars. So you can see the templates, the multiple choice, and the ranking polls that we used for today are currently active and they're here. So if I wanted to make another Slido poll to use right now with this presentation, all I have to do is click create poll. And you see I automatically get the choice to choose multiple choice, word cloud. So let me pick multiple choice. Oh, look at that, guys. I can create 3 polls per event. So I would have to upgrade in order to create that next poll. So unless I were to make a new event. So you see how simple it is to use. You can click and create. And if you have an issue like what you just saw me encounter, you can easily navigate out of it and move to the next thing. Now, what is important to consider is the frequency of your use, because if you are going to use this really frequently, that is when you would want to have a conversation with whatever system or organization you're with to discuss whether or not it would be a good idea to purchase an account to give you more. The point, though, is just like I said previously, being aware of the limitations is really, really important when you use the free accounts. So as you can see, you can type in any question, how are you doing? And you can add any answer here. It's very simple. Not so great. And then I can launch it right now, even though I have to select my correct answer. In this case, I indicated there was a correct answer, so this is just an example for you, but it's so easy to use, and it's so easy to back out of something if you've engaged in a button that didn't take you where you wanted to go. What I do want everybody to know is that there is a really, really robust academy here. So real quickly, let me just show you the teams. Right now, I just have Jen and I in this draft account. Analytics. So you can see that I currently have 3 active events. That's what we're doing right now. I have 1 question, I just put that in, and 84 poll votes, which is great. And then this academy is what we really wanted to show you. Because even with the free account, you have access to a lot of videos that show you how to use the tool. And it looks like it's just taking it a minute to load. You can see that it's still loading here. But if you log in and create free login, you will have access to this academy. For whatever reason, it's just going really slowly. So I'm going to move on from it right now. So events, team, analytics, and academy are all part of that free account.
And one of the first videos that will pop up in the academy is a getting started with Slido. So that would be a good video to view first, which will give you the overview of the tour of the site, and also the logistics of setting up your account and integrating it into your PowerPoint presentations. Those are other examples of videos that you will find in that academy section. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Okay, and now I'm going to pull up Padlet. Excuse me. Let me share my screen here. So you can see this is my account, and it's so easy to make a Padlet. This is my dashboard. So you can see that I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 Padlets. And to make a Padlet, I can click that Make a Padlet button, and then I can select the design that I want to use. So I used a lot of shelves today because I wanted to add those columns, those titles to my columns. But I could choose a wall where people can add their comments in no particular order. We did use that for brainstorming a little bit. I could choose a stream, which would allow me to have content come from top to bottom. I could choose a grid to arrange content in rows or blocks. It looked like they had an announcement that this back channel is going away, I think, in a couple of weeks. So that won't be an option anymore, probably because most of us have chat features on our phones and chat features in the actual platforms like Zoom. So why would you need that? You can select a map, you could select a canvas or a timeline. So once you make that selection, you can choose to modify. This came up with these Valentine hearts. I do not want Valentine's hearts right now because it's June. And so what I would do, and you can see it gave me a title, you can change your title and change your description. It's so simple to use. And then I can change my wallpaper. So say I don't want these hearts because it is June, it is not near Valentine's Day. They give you all sorts of pictures that you can choose from. I want this peacock because I think he's pretty. And then you can change your colors, or you can select something from your desktop. But I don't have any good pictures from my desktop right now. So I'm going to stick with the peacock picture. So you can see it's so easy to use. And then say, I decided, wait a minute, okay, I am going to save what I have. And I'm ready for people to start posting. Obviously, I didn't give much of a direction. But say I make a decision that I want to actually change the format. I don't want to do that random scattered wall anymore. I want to do a grid. No, I want to do a shelf now. So I can make that change right here. And I don't need to do anything other than select it down that drop down and say, I want to call this column 1. I save it. And I want to add 5 more columns. All I have to do is just press this button. So Padlet is really, really easy to use. It is easy to share. You copy the links, you can add members. And again, there are a host of demo videos that are actually linked to the DaSy virtual engagement toolbox that we're going to show you in a minute. So you can access all those videos for free and watch and learn how to use Padlet and Slido.
And when you share a Padlet, similar to Slido, you do have that QR code option. So you will see that as one of your choices in the Padlet. When you click share, you can get a link, or you can also get a QR code that you can download, take a snip of, and embed in your presentations. Now, granted, it's not as simple and embedded into your PowerPoint. It is an extra step, but that QR code is an option, and it's very convenient for your participants to simply snap that QR code and engage.
Okay. So now that we have taken all this time to look at Slido and look at Padlet and how we can use them for our early childhood work, we want to know your thoughts. How can you use Slido and Padlet after watching the scenarios and thinking through it? We want to know your ideas about increasing participant engagement. So go ahead, you guys are experts at this now. You know that you're going to turn your cameras on and you're going to go right on up to that Slido QR code like you're taking a picture. And let's see. Oh, let me make sure that this screen sharing is not in the way. All right. Actually, we're going to do this with Padlet. So let me pull up that Padlet slide. You should let me know if you have not gotten to a Padlet. It says list new ways to use Padlet and or Slido to engage participants in your virtual meeting. I'm going to share that out with you.
And when you follow that QR code to the Padlet, you'll come to a space in the Padlet or ask you to title your response, and then it will say write something. And you also see that another benefit of Padlet is that you can upload pictures, put links, put websites directly in your responses as well. So it will take just straight text, and you have those other options for different types of media that can be added to your responses.
So let's give everybody a couple of minutes or a minute. And as people are adding responses, I'm going to take a quick look at the chat, Jen, to see if there are any thoughts that we need to see in the chat. Well,
yep, I think the thoughts that are in the chat are related to other ways that participants are engaged other than Slido and Padlet. So I think after we wrap this up, we can take those ideas and share those at the end too.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have a lot of responses. So some people said that for polls and Slidos to, as a way to get consensus on an issue. Absolutely. That ranking and voting in the Slido would be a great way to come to consensus and for people to share their opinions. Also the rating feature as well in the Padlet is another way that you can use these two tools to come to consensus. What else do you see on the board, Andrea?
I see real-time data collection. which is awesome. I love that. The idea that getting feedback is data collection. You are getting people's input and information. Absolutely, real-time data collection. You can get that from meeting participants. You can get that from people who haven't participated in your meeting by sharing out one of those links. I also see the use of Padlet as a parking lot, which is an excellent idea, because you are so right. Virtual meetings, one thing that can get us off topic is if we are trying to respond to questions in a way that interrupts the flow or the activities that you're trying to accomplish during the meeting. So Padlet is a beautiful way to get that parking lot that we used to put on the chart paper markers and check it at the end of your meeting. Excellent. I love this about getting an understanding of what folks took from the meeting and discussion that will help with their work. Hosting resources on Padlet, excellent. Showing charts, PowerPoints, and slides. Can be used as an after meeting follow-up, definitely. Help people understand complicated math formulas such as significant disproportionality. That is huge, absolutely. Jen, do you see any that I missed?
Just to show charts, PowerPoint slides, and to obtain real-time feedback, I think is the other thing. But yes, I mean, we definitely agree with all of those responses. And I especially love the parking lot idea that came up, because that is something that is a critical tool for meeting facilitators to think about how do we maximize our time and not get diverted in virtual meetings. And even in face-to-face meetings, that would be great to send a link for a Padlet to keep all of the parking lot topics and keep track of those.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing is the link can stay open for as long as you set it to be open. And so you can collect information over the course of a whole week if you want to.
Yeah, we just did a presentation last week where we said, add to these ideas. If you have more questions, continue to add them in the Padlet. And then we can go back and continually every once in a while check in on the Padlet before the next meeting. So we have those questions and answers for the next time we come together. So that's a great way to save time in between meetings also.
Great. So feel free to continue adding onto that Padlet if you think of some new ideas. So where can you find this DaSy Virtual Engagement Toolbox? The good news is it is right on the DaSy Center's website. You just go straight to the DaSy Center website and go to the featured resources section, and you will see this image and a description of the DaSy Toolbox to increase virtual engagement. And I actually have the link so you can see what the toolbox looks like.
I've also put the link to the DaSy Center website in the chat as well.
Thank you, Jen. So you go straight down to the featured resources, and you will get the handout with the 5 tools that we have reviewed throughout the duration of this webinar series to improve engagement. So you'll see that we currently have 5 tools listed because we have reviewed Excel, we have reviewed Padlet, Poll Everywhere, Slido, and Zoom in detail. And you'll see a description here of the tool and then a link for how to get started. So the link will take you to the websites and the videos that will train you and help you understand how to best use these tools. So right on that our DaSy website is where you can find this information.
And if you haven't participated in the previous webinars in this series, you can go straight to those links and it will take you to the webinars that we've recorded as a part of this series about virtual engagement.
Great reminder, thank you. And you know, DaSy is always here to help there are so many resources available through DaSy. And so we wanted to make sure to list some very specific resources that you can access through the DaSy website, including the DaSy Visualization Toolkit, the Stakeholder Knowledge, SPP, APR information to support stakeholders with that process. Of course, the DaSy Toolbox to increase virtual engagement, which you just saw. The Zoom presentation, putting pizzazz in your online meetings. And then lastly, the Stakeholder Knowledge Toolkit, building knowledge about data. So you can access all of these for free 24/7 on the DaSy website. And finally, DaSy can always help through contacting a state TA liaison, learning about My DaSy TA, our learning community support system, and then ask DaSy for help. You can simply go online and request support. And now I want to take a couple moments to look through the chat to see if additional questions have come through, or to see if there are any thoughts or questions specific to any of the information that was covered today.
So by taking a look at the chat, one of the first questions that we proposed was what are other ways that you engage stakeholders? So many of the participants reference Google Docs, a Jamboard, Idea Board, so many other types of tools. And we wanted to consider that there are so many types of tools. And then how can you find a few tools like Slido and Padlet that you can dive deeply into? And how can you get very comfortable with those tools as you plan your presentation? So thanks for sharing all of those tools that you've already used. One of the questions that just came through was Patty, who asked, many of our stakeholders are not so tech savvy and do not like clicking and moving between screens. Are there other resources that you're aware of that can be useful other than polls in the Zoom platform? So one of the tools that we would recommend for that is Slido, because it can be integrated directly into your PowerPoint presentation, and there's no clicking in and out and going out to another website. Most participants, we hope, might have access to a cell phone, and if they have a cell phone and can access the internet, then engaging through Slido should work without you as a presenter needing to go in and out of other websites, or also needing them to download apps in order to engage. Ms. Schombacher, do you have any other recommendations for that?
I think that's an excellent point. I think cell phones are critical to think through. Google can be used. Google Shared Documents can be used via the cell phones. And actually Zoom and Teams and most of the platforms, I believe, are available. You can download the apps to your cell phone. I think regarding discomfort, the best way to support participants who are feeling uncomfortable is to provide time before the meeting or after the meeting, if you're meeting consistently, to just practice using the tool with them. Sometimes once the tools are identified, the best way to do it is just dive in and try. And so you have to be willing to be vulnerable, like we talked about earlier, and make some mistakes. And that's really hard to do when you're in a meeting with other people. So setting up a check your tech session, 15 minutes is all it takes sometimes to help a person or a handful of people feel more comfortable. And that is really important, that people feel as comfortable as possible. The other thing you can do is have call-in options as well. You don't always have to use, we do have some team members that just want to use the phone, and that's fine. Jen, were you going to add on?
Yeah, just thinking about those people that are not as tech savvy, just to reiterate that offering a quick check your tech session optional as a drop-in. And then also consider not jumping between so many different tools, right? In the chat, everyone shared about the whiteboard features that they've used and the Google Jamboards and all of that. And sometimes that can be overwhelming. While it's engaging, if you have participants that are not as tech savvy, jumping from tool to tool can increase that anxiety. So we would recommend finding one or two tools that can work for you in multiple ways and using that through some of those consistent recurring meetings. And also you might want to consider in the calendar invite to send a quick tutorial video that will be available through that academy, for example, of Slido, and finding a little how-to video that you could send participants ahead of time that might have a little technology anxiety around the tool that you're going to be using. So that's another thing to consider in your planning.
And I know Cecilia just shared out a really great point about PowerPoint 365. In the chat, Cecilia wrote that the online version has a presentation feature where you can invite people directly to the PowerPoint presentation. So there's no need for the Zoom. If you integrate the polls right into the PowerPoint, they would not have to leave the PowerPoint presentation. It could be aided with phones, etc., to be able to engage in those embedded polls. Thank you, Cecilia. That's a great point.
All right, so we do have a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions at this time, I'll be monitoring the chat.
And I also just want to make sure, I do see Cindy's comment with some really great engagement strategies. So just wanted to make sure that everybody did see them. The idea of shared roles, co-facilitators, chat monitors, participant monitors, timekeepers, a poll person, etc. Thank you, Cindy. That's really great points that you just made.
All right, we'll give it about 10 more seconds. If we don't see anything else, I think we can wrap up a few minutes early and give everyone a couple minutes back. All right, thanks so much, Cindy. We're getting some great positive feedback in the chat. We appreciate everyone's time to be here with us for this webinar, and we hope you learned about those two tools to engage your participants in virtual meetings. We've enjoyed the session here with you today, and be on the lookout for the July 15th webinar, where we're specifically going to look at stakeholder engagement. While this webinar focused more on the two tools of Slido and Padlet, we will be talking more specifically about engaging diverse groups of stakeholders in virtual meetings. So please be on the lookout for that announcement to come soon. All right, I'll let you wrap it up, Andrea.
Thank you, everybody, so very much. I think you just did a great job wrapping it up, Jen. We really enjoyed our time with you today, and look forward to seeing you again on July 15th.
All right, bye, everyone. Please don't forget to do the session evaluation that
Yes.
was to you after this webinar. So thank you so much.